Hey guys, what's up? And today we are going to be going over a Stryfe that I've actually had finished for quite a while now. This was a redo of the Tacticool Stryfe that had a 3D printed sort of kit on it. However, it didn't come out that great and actually fell off the pegboard about a year ago maybe, and a bunch of the stuff was messed up. So I ended up taking the whole thing completely apart and redoing it. This is probably the last video that had stuff filmed on the old camera. This has actually been done for a few weeks, if not months by now. I've been waiting for the Eclipse system for a while. I bought one of the milled aluminum cages. However, the wheels that it came with, like many other people, were bad. So while waiting for new wheels, and at this point I might as well just wait for Gen 2 wheels to come out so that I'm not destroying pretty much all my darts. But anyway, instead of waiting for that to eventually come out, because there's no release date in sight, we will go ahead and show you the video for building this blaster. Hey guys, what's up? And it's time to do the part 2, or I guess redo, of this blaster. For those of you who are unfamiliar, this is a sort of Tacticool blaster I did a little while ago. It had a 3D printed stock as well, however, recently it was knocked off of my wall. The stock broke and got me rethinking about this project. I'm really not happy with how it turned out, and I think it's time to change that so I don't waste a perfectly good Stryfe. So I sort of want to take the ghetto features away from this blaster and make it overall a much nicer blaster, so I've ripped off these already and sort of cleaned up the backs. But I want to keep the Picatinny rails on the side up here. Another thing I'm not happy with is this 3D printed thing that I did. It looks good from a distance, but it actually doesn't match up quite right here, and it doesn't really line up either. So I think I might just cave and get the worker one so that I get something consistent. The extended grip is also something I picked up at Anwar. It's from 3D printed solid. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this one, but it does make it more comfortable. I might actually just 3D print my own. And then sort of go with that, just because this one already is sanded flat, and this has the ridge which would carry along from the stock Stryfe. Going to keep the slightly extended mag release. I'm pretty happy with that. That's one of my design. The foregrip, I might do something where it blocks off this front area if I end up going with the worker top, sort of to match the sort of blocky look that it has, but I kind of like this grip as well, so I might do an edit of this grip that has a bit that sticks in there, so it sort of goes with the overall aesthetic. And then I like the squared off front like that. So one thing I might try actually is making this sort of as flat as possible. Basically that would involve doing some putty work to fill in this slight gap here. And then, you know, probably filling in these, and probably just getting rid of as much of the features as possible. One of the things I played around with is doing like a sticker bomb for this blaster, and I think it would be kind of cool, but in order to get as much surface area as possible and not have any like weird like stickers peeling off, I think I'm going to just try to make the blaster overall as flat as possible. I have a really good idea for the motor setup, which is going to require a slightly extended tray over here, or not tray, but motor cover rather. So I'm going to have to probably design my own because I'm not too thrilled with any ones that I found so far. Same thing for this side though, I'm probably going to try to make it as flat as possible. And then for the battery door, I'm going to do a slightly extended one just because this will be a lipo build. But that's sort of the basic rundown for this blaster. Let's tear it down and get started. Luckily I've already sort of removed the logos and the shell is pretty flat and most of the sanding is done, so besides adding this door over here and some other putty work, most of the work is done already, so that's a huge bonus. Okay, for this build I decided to go with the new Fang motors that I bought at Anwar. These are 132 size as opposed to your normal 130 size motors, so they're going to be a little bit big and just barely fit in some blasters, and like the Stryfe, they just barely don't fit. So it makes more sense to do a extended cover. In this case I designed and printed my own. I'm going to have to upload this to Thingiverse once I get all the kinks worked out. However, I think this will be the final version because it dimensionally fits quite nicely and should be very easy to install. I'm just going to glue it in and then do a very small bit of epoxy work just to blend the two pieces together. But as you can see here, I already cut out my hole for that. And for this build I'm also going to be using another 3D printed part and open flywheel project cage rather. I'm going to be using that with some of the Containment Crew Cyclone wheels, which also have a large amount of crush. So this system should be pushing pretty high numbers. I just glued my motor cover on. It's in pretty securely. The only thing left to do now is epoxy putty it on. I'm still not sure if this is going to be the final design. I'm not really sure what to do with this extra space on the raised sections, but I might change it in the future, but for right now it's good for this build. Up next, I'm going to start my bodywork. I'm actually going to extend the grip. Normally I want to 3D print some of these types of parts and then bodywork it in. However, because I'm kind of pressed for time right now and I need it to be ready for this weekend, I'm going to be working on just using a small piece of polycarbonate sheet, 1/8 inch on each side. That's just right now glued, and then some little epoxy putty on, and that'll create where the pieces meet. Basically, I found it's very difficult to get putty pieces to match exactly and form a perfect seam, so this is sort of my workaround for that. So I'll have a perfect joining of the two, and I'm going to just cover over epoxy putty, or epoxy sculpt rather, with this when I do my body work. So this blaster hasn't been recorded in quite a while. However, I've done a lot of the sanding for the putty work, and then I primed it in this white color. I'll probably go over it with an actual white paint in a little bit. But basically the color scheme I'm going to go for is white, black, and probably orange to match the other orange aesthetic on the various stock orange bits that I'm keeping. And then we're going to sticker bomb it now that we have a lovely, very flat surface to work with. And just to show you the other side, it's also pretty flat as well. So we have plenty of room to work with now. So here side one is all ready to get painted black in the non-taped off areas. And then I decided to do the top rails to be black as well. And then we'll go back in later and do like an orange stripe or something in the middle of that. I still need to work a little bit on this side. I'm going to do an orange stripe down the middle just to sort of even out, because there'll be a lot of orange in the front of the blaster. And I want to sort of even that out towards the middle and back section. Then on top of that, we might need a few more black details, like these little divots down here that I didn't want to tape off. I could just do that by hand. Also, I might dry brush the blaster just to sort of make it look a bit more worn and sort of hide some of the minor overspray areas that we have going on here. So I originally intended this to be sort of sticker bombed with a lot of the Nerf brand aftermarket companies that I had got stickers from at End War. A lot of them I got to meet and talk to, so it was really cool, and I made friends with some of them, so it was kind of like cool to work on that aspect of the community and sort of really build a blaster, I guess, that sort of had some of that on it. However, after talking to some people, I'm not really sure if I like the stickers as much on this blaster, and I might just bring something to End War this year to have people sign instead of doing this. And then just move on with this blaster in the paint scheme. Maybe, like I said, do a little dry brushing just to sort of blend it together a bit more and then move on. I have to refine it again because I just cleaned up my workshop, but I also had rail inserts and then Picatinny rails, which I had 3D printed, which will sort of go in this front area. Originally, I have a mount for the ammo counter that I bought that I might put on this blaster. However, the issue being that it's actually for this side of the shell, and I have my motor cover here. It will stick out far enough, but it's just a lot of stuff to have on that one side of the shell, and it really makes it look asymmetric. I could put it on the rail as intended, or I could probably make my own mount and just put it on this side. So here's what the blaster looks like with its orange stripe. Now there's a bit of bleeding that went on there that I'm not too thrilled with. It's a little more prevalent in person. And there's a little bit of overspray, just slight areas where it went over. I tried to touch it up. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera on some of the white regions up here. However, I'm not really too thrilled with that. There's a little bit of, like I said, bleeding going on up here. So I'm probably going to just dry brush the blaster just to give it a little bit of a more worn look and sort of hide some of that, because I really don't feel like going back in and touching it up because it'd be quite an involved process. Okay, so this is going to be kind of hard to show off, but I can explain it. So, although the white looks exactly the same on camera, it's actually slightly different. Basically what I did was I went over it with a with a brush paint white, and that sort of gave it a little bit of texture, which is what I was kind of looking for, because before the white was extremely well, just flat white, and it had a few small scratches and stuff like that where when I tried to touch it up, it really just stood out just because of how flat the white was. So I went over it with the dry brush, or with the paint rather, I keep saying dry brush paint, but I just went over it with a hand paint, and although, I mean, it's really hard to see, I did give it a little hair of texture, which sort of really helped it blend together with the spots that I tried to touch up. So now it's on to some silver dry brushing. As to avoid leaving the video on a cliffhanger, the blaster had a silver dry brushing. I did a 2K clear coat and then a matte over that just to get the matte finish, but still have the strength of the 2K clear coat. Then I was going to sticker bomb it, however I really didn't like how the stickers looked. Some of them have different shades of white as the background, so it kind of looked a little weird, and some of them were like very bulky squares, so it really didn't look as good as I wanted it to originally. However, that's why there's a lot of large flat surfaces on the blaster, so I'll probably have to get something like a body kit or something just to finish it off, make it look a little more complete, but we could do that once we actually get all the parts to finish the blaster. Anyway guys, as always, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video.